of the activities at McGill. I'd like to turn to our last speaker from Université de Montréal and IRIC, Dr. Michel Bouvier. Is a professor of biochemistry and the chief executive officer of the Institute for Research in Immunology and Cancer at Université de Montréal. Over the course of his career, Michel has contributed to the development of the drug discovery sector in Quebec, notably by taking part in the creation of IRICoR, a center of excellence in commercialization and research specialized in drug discovery, the Groupe de Recherche Universitaire sur le Médicament, or GRUM, and the Réseau Québécois de Recherche sur le Médicament, IRICoR. Michel is a world-renowned expert in the field of G-protein-coupled receptors and made seminal contribution to our understanding of this major class of drug targets that led to the applications for human health. Michel?
Thank you very much, Stéphane, and thank you, Shanna, for the invitation to participate to this interesting symposium. Do you hear me fine, Stéphane?
Yes, everything is good, and we see your slides. Yeah.
Fantastic. So one of the questions I think which is underlying the present symposium is can academia contribute to drug discovery and production? So what I will try to do in the next 20 minutes is tell you how Université of Montreal addressed this question, namely in creating the Institute for Research in Immunology and Cancer, which had drug discovery in its mission. And also, maybe I will have an answer for you at the end of the presentation to this question. So for anybody who was involved in drug discovery, we all know that it is a daunting challenge. Despite the increasing needs, there's a number of challenges that the industry is facing, and here are listed some of these challenges. But that led the industry to tend to externalize some of their discoveries. And that, I think, created an opportunity for innovative research centers to enter into the ecosystem of the drug discovery. So traditionally, academics are producing knowledge that they published in hopefully high impact factor, and more or less through a random collision model, this ends up being picked up by companies or by VCs, either to create spin-offs or to be licensing some technologies, and these random collision models are catalyzed by transfer technology offices from different universities. Although this model can work, there's other models which are emerging, which is a more integrated pre-coupled model, where the academic researchers are included into drug discovery institutes or institutes that have as their mission, part of their mission, translating the basic discoveries into innovative therapeutics, and have established different modes of interactions with industry, either through partnership with big companies or by creating small spin-off companies that could either go on and become big companies or be acquired by larger pharmas. And this is a model that Université of Montreal has chosen to take when they created IRIC, which is located at the heart of the University of Montreal campus. And it combines under one roof cutting-edge basic and translational research, but also include a team of people involved in maturation and commercialization of the discoveries, which is called IRICoR, for IRIC and Commercialization of Research. So this is to accelerate the translation of early stage project to highly innovative, patient accessible cancer therapies mainly, but also for other indication, as we are opportunistic for some of the indications. So to do that, we have generated a number of different units, if you will. And one of the very important one that was created in the process of creating this ability to translate discoveries into innovative therapies has been the Academic Drug Discovery Unit, which is directed by Anne Marigny. The unit includes, on the site at IRIC, 65 drug hunters, including 50 med chemists and 15 biologists, and it's still growing, and we're running out of space, but we're still trying to grow. This team has synthesized more than almost 40,000 new molecules. of which 4 turn into drug candidates, which are currently in clinical trials. On the right-hand side, you can see here, and maybe I will just start my laser pointer here. On the right-hand side here, you can see the number of activities that are being conducted in the medicinal chemistry unit. And you know, this includes some of the more recent development into drug discovery, such as DNA-encoded libraries or PROTACs. And also something I will come back on is the computer-assisted drug design, but also AI-powered drug discovery tools in collaboration with the Montreal Institute for Learning algorithm and small companies like InVivo AI or the CEFREF Ivado. Of course, a number of biologists are involved in this. And we have established a number of formal links with the Canadian clinical centers for clinical trials arising from our discoveries. The other big piece that we have created that allows this is the creation in 2008 of IRICoR, which has become a CEFREF in 2018. Not a CEFREF, I'm sorry, a CCR in 2018. And this was created to begin with to gap the basic research, the publicly funded research towards generating partner-ready assets, either to create a company or to partner with the big pharma. And these steps are not classically carried out in the academic settings, and the knowledge of how to do that is not necessarily present that. And that's how we generated IRICoR to address this gap in the system. So what does IRICoR do? Well, they invest in rigorously selected projects, as I said, focus on oncology, rare disease, and some other indications. They provide project management, which is very important for drug discovery programs, as I mentioned. Classically, this is not things which are done in industry, in academia, I'm sorry. They have a flexible business model, which can lead to either licensing of the assets or company creation. Of course, they have privileged access to the cutting-edge drug discovery infrastructure that we have at IRIC, but also in other centers at IRIC, including also a high-throughput screening facility. A track record of successful partnership with biopharmaceutical companies, and therefore an extensive network of partners, and which provides multiple out-licensing opportunities. We also have quite a nice national and international footprint. Just in the last 3 years, IRICoR considered more than 100 project proposals for drug discovery programs coming from 5 provinces and also from international institutions. And you can see the list of some of them on the right-hand side. And 20 new projects were supported during the last 3 years coming from these different centers in Canada and across the world that can have access also to our drug discovery unit. On the right-hand side, you see here some of the main characters involved in the leadership of IRICoR, who is directed by Michel Bouvier, the CEO of IRICoR, that directs a team of about 12 people that are involved in this activity. The way they work is that they, of course, through a rigorous assessment, they select the best possible project, both based on their science merit, but also on the business opportunities that they may represent. Then they offer financing, but also the management of the project that is required to move forward, and in particular to make sure that the proper IP positioning is made, and also offer expertise for preclinical studies, CMC, and clinical, and also the regulatory aspects of the programs, and then help the program being commercialized or partnered or to create a new company. So mitigating the strategy to support the project through clinical development and going to the market. Of course, to do that, a number of partnerships have been established. And here's just an impressionist slide. This is not meant for you to read all of the partners. Some of them are written quite small. But you can see here that there are a number of academic partners, clinical partners, biopharmaceutical partners, financial partners that have contributed to the different programs over the years and to the successes that we have been able to accomplish. So one of these collaborations, I will focus on a few collaborations, is with the MILA, the Montreal Institute for Learning Algorithm, as well as IVADO, which is also a CEFRES. So to really integrate artificial intelligence and machine learning into the drug discovery activities, both to generate new molecules, but also to select the best candidates for safety and efficacy based on very large set and multimodal type of data. And as you can see here, this partnership with Mila has led to a number of partnership with different drug companies and also some artificial intelligence companies such as InVivo AI and MIMS. Another very important collaboration is with the Center for Continuous Flow Synthesis that was initiated by the Department of Chemistry at the University of Montreal. And we all know the need of manufacturing and producing therapeutics. And so we have established this collaboration to start developing a facility that will allow to in a very agile manner, synthesize the drugs that we need for the preclinical studies, but also the early phase of clinical studies in partnership with CROs or even generic companies to get the GMP capacity, but also that could very easily and rapidly be transformed into larger production facilities to generate the drugs that may be difficult to access during crisis, like the one that we are going through right now. So that's a very important initiative for us that will increase even further the impact of our drug discovery unit and our mission. So here's just a few selected milestones of pharmaceutical partnership or spin-off creation. I will speak more about, of course, domain therapeutics that led to the creation of Domain Therapeutics North America in Montreal. We'll speak a bit more about Exaltera in a few slides, but I just wanted here to mention also the creation of a specificity that is a company aiming at developing vaccines against cancer, and also a more recent partnership with Ipsen in the cancer field. So one of the important partnership that we've established with drug companies is exemplified in this one, and this is with Bristol Myers Squibb, where we initiated the partnership with them in 2008, and this partnership is still flourishing. And it initiated by the ability of IRIC to bring new targets and also new tools and innovation coupled to the power of the drug development of Bristol Myers Squibb and their knowledge in the fields that we were interested in. So in 2008, we established this that led to a first clinical trial coming from compound developed jointly between BMS and us, and which is currently in phase 2 on a GPCR, which is PAR4. And now in 2021, we now have an umbrella agreement with them with 6 ongoing programs targeting different targets. And so, which also allows to bring more programs in the umbrella agreement. And of course, we have BMS support for large-scale initiatives, such as those that are promoted by the governments in Quebec or Canada. And maybe an interesting quote from one of the former senior VP and head at BMS was that many groups and companies pretend to do drugs discovery, but very few actually do it. And these guys do it. So I think this was a very nice compliment that he made us a few years ago. So here's a couple of examples, a case study of some of the successes that we're able to accomplish. And this one is on the generation of PAR4 in the field of stroke. In this case, we brought in the fact that PAR4, which was a neglected target for this indication at the time, we had, and BMS also had data indicating that this target was possibly interesting. And we had developed a number of tools to study these receptors. And so through the different phases, we were able to, of course, get to the clinical trial phases through the alliance management with BMS. And so this has led to a large number of family patent, 7, which represents 68 individual patents, and the phase 2 clinical trial is still ongoing. And this is just to emphasize that doing research with partners does not necessarily mean that you cannot publish in high standard journals the information that you have generated. This is an example of a paper published in 2017 on our work with them on PAR4 that has been leading to 5 other papers as only one of these examples. So here, the case of domain therapeutics in Montreal, this is a technology that was developed in my own laboratory, allowing to monitor the signaling activity of receptors in living cells and imaging this activity in a high throughput manner. This of course came from academically funded research. And then we filed a few patents. This was then supported by the CQDM that was mentioned by Philippe earlier in his presentation, and through collaboration with investigators at different institutions in Montreal area, we created a consortium that allowed us to move much faster in generating a lot of these biosensors. IRICoR funded part of this work, and then we were able to license this technology to domain therapeutics, IRICoR, Pfizer and Merck in a non-exclusive manner for IRICoR for Pfizer and Merck. And for domain therapeutics, we wanted to license them the commercial rights to commercialize this technology, but we asked them to do so to establish a company in Montreal where at least 80% of the technology would be used, and they've established Domain Therapeutics North America in Montreal to do that, and this is now flourishing with 12 employees. And then Domain Therapeutics sub-licensed this technology to 2 other companies, Alkermes and Bristol Myers Squibb, and it's still ongoing and used quite extensively for drug screening in these different companies. So here's another example from basic immuno-oncology to the creation of Exceltera. This is work coming out of the laboratory initially of Guy Sauvageau, many years of publicly funded research on the mechanism underlying leukemia. And they were able, and together with the high throughput screening platform of IRIC and the drug discovery platform, to identify a compound, UM171, that could expand quite significantly in the best condition the cord blood hematopoietic stem cells, allowing to improve transplant in leukemic patients. So with that, there was exploration to create a new company. A new company was created in 2014 to 15, which was called Exceltera. And then the first clinical trial were initiated in the 2016 in collaboration with another Caesar, C3I, which is specific on cell therapy. And so moving forward, now the company is launched a number of phase 2 clinical trials in different indications around the leukemia. And the clinical trials have been extremely successful, and it's moving forward in phase 3 studies in some cases. So this is just a few examples of some of the work that was carried out at IRIC and supported by IRICoR that went all the way to clinical trials. And here on the right-hand side, you have the clinical partners who were involved in running these clinical trials in collaboration with us. And there's a couple of additional ones that are on the verge to be initiated in different indications. So over the last decade, the IRICoR partnership allowed to finance and manage more than 100 drug discovery projects. This involved more than 50 public and private partners, led to more than 30 licenses to industry, and 60 patent families. So 60 patent families translate probably in something like 400 individual patents at least. 5 of the new chemical entities that were created are now running into 8 clinical trials. 5 of the startup companies that we created have now have revenues and or have ongoing clinical trials. And in addition to that, the point that was raised by Shanna and also by Jerry is the importance of training people. Of course, a number of trainees are involved in these projects in the labs and also as interns in the drug discovery unit. But a sector where we were involved in collaboration with Montréal in Vivo, the pharmacy faculty, as well as the Molson School of Business, is the training of entrepreneurs. As we are creating these various spin-off companies, it is very important to have the right people who can bring these companies to fruition. And so we were involved in the training of more than 50 interns in the entrepreneurship programs that was launched by this collaboration that I just described. And over the years, we generated more than $70 million in private R&D investment from the partners and revenues from these partnership. And of course, the startup company that we have created also are on their own generating important revenues with very significant cap market. So I think that I will end here by providing our answer to the question I started my talk with, which was, can academia contribute to drug discovery and production? And for us, I think the answer is a resounding yes. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Michel, for this overview of the activities at IRIC and Université de Montréal. This concludes the talks from our speakers. What we're going to do now is have a brief discussion with our speakers. And then this is going to be followed by a break. And at 4 o'clock, I would like everybody to come back, and as we're going to have this the panel that would follow. All right, so just maybe to provide a bit of the framework for the discussion, I'd like to go back to the op-ed in the Globe and Mail from the president of the University of Toronto, Mary Gertler, and I'd like to go back on the quote of his that says, as we look ahead to the post-pandemic, post-Trump, and post-Brexit era, we need a comprehensive strategy to maintain and enhance Canada's talent advantage. So our future prosperity depends on our capacity to invest in people, communities, and opportunity. We need to be bold and think big, he says. So I'd like to ask, what do you think are some of these opportunities in front of us? Anybody wants to get started?
I can kick things off, Stefan. I think it's a great quote from Merrick and great sentiment. And I think we have a unique opportunity over the next few years. I mean, I think everybody reads the headlines of the papers every day and has a profound appreciation now of what biomedical research is all about, what it takes to develop a new vaccine, and how transformative it can be to a society to have those breakthroughs be rolled out. And so, you know, we appreciate this. We're in the trenches every day trying to push these new breakthroughs ahead. But I think we really have an opportunity to ask for more resources, to try to move things faster. I mean, we've learned how to combat an infectious disease, but we need to do the same thing with cancer and neurodegenerative diseases. And there's so many more indications where we need the same type of effort. And so I think as a community, you know, the time is really now to push for that.
Yeah, Stefan, if I can add to this, what Shanna just said, I think that we've seen some of the opportunities today. It's quite impressive, which has been accomplished across the country in different centers in terms of moving forward into, you know, discovering new therapies, vaccines, and turning very rapidly to adapt to the new situation. So I think that these centers represent, and probably others in Canada, some hubs that need to be nurtured and need to work together to have a major impact in Canada. So we've seen that we had locally impact in different creation of spin-offs and partnership, But I think the next level is to, as your president said, is to think big. I think many of these centers would benefit greatly to having larger investment. It's not the number of projects which are limiting. We are turning down a very large number of projects because for each drug discovery program, you need a number of people and you need resources. So this is something that we could together, I think, achieve in the near future and try to maintain some of these successes in Canada as much as possible to make them economically sound.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think we should be doing is really finding ways of reducing the hurdles for academic discoveries leading to new opportunities for therapeutics, et cetera. And there's some quite distinct hurdles. I don't think that we've yet mastered the art of the UILOs or university industry liaison offices still can present a hurdle for academic investigators to get their inventions into a commercial arena. The other is, why don't we have opportunities like the SBIR program in the United States that are really formative in terms of getting new enterprises going? Why don't we have those in Canada? Why don't we have mandates from our health agencies in each province that perhaps they should try and buy things locally as opposed to globally? These are needed opportunities, and but they really aren't taken advantage of in a way that they need to be.
Stefan, if I can add to that, I mean, I just want to echo that. So that suggestion about the SBIR-like programs that I think are so important to the biotech ecosystem in the US, where it provides non-dilutive funds, and it's not a gift. It's these are competitions, and they go through extensive peer review, and it really is essential to that ecosystem down there. And there's, Shayna's opening remarks where she listed off all the programs that are being sunset here in Canada that have, helped spur some of this. I think is heartbreaking that there's no thought behind how we're going to replace this vacuum. And then the other thing that I wanted to add, and it really struck me with Michel's talk, and that is if you want to have an impact, especially in the area of drug discovery, or Peter's as well, with innovative nanomedicines, you need chemists and biologists working together. We have such a siloed system in our granting system now. You can't mention the word human health in NSERC. You can't get chemists funded properly in CIHR. We have this CHIRP program, but it's so oversubscribed, and as Sheena was saying, is doesn't seem to be going forward anymore. I mean, this is just a tragedy that you cannot. Everything is multidisciplinary, and if you have a system that is so entrenched and you cannot cross those barriers, you're destined to fail.
Good. So maybe I'll field the question that I think is quite topical from one of the attendees. So as the speakers pointed out, we have impressive research talent in Canada, yet we find ourselves in this situation waiting for vaccine and with few companies compared to other countries. So what do the speakers and panelists think are the issues that need to be addressed? And I'm sure it's not only one solution. We talk about the scaling up of the biotech enterprise in Canada that surely would contribute to that. But I'd like to hear what you guys think about this and the situation of health security that we're facing with this pandemic.
I think it really relates to that ecosystem of startups. I mean, I question whether a Moderna would have ever gotten going in Canada, right? To start a company in Canada, you have to go out and find investors. Your first money comes from investors. They may be venture investors, angel investors. That's a very difficult process. Whereas writing a grant proposal, getting those first few people to get things off the ground, that's how 60% of companies in the biomedical space in the US get started. The majority of the capital comes from government funding, comes through the SBIR program, as we've just mentioned, and not through private investors. So that is a big chunk of what we're missing, are those mechanisms to just make it easier to start companies, to get new technologies to see the light of day, to see if there's legs under them. And, you know, if we had those mechanisms, we might have a homegrown industry where we would have had our own vaccine. Again, it's not just manufacturing. We need our own groups developing vaccines and other types of therapeutics. So it's really a scale of the ecosystem that I personally feel just needs to take a step up so that we're ready in these kinds of situations.
I think there was two parts to the question. Now, the first part was, if we're so good, how come we don't have a vaccine available in Canada? And you know, that's a really good question. You know, Cuba has their own. We don't. So I think that, yes, we can feed the pipeline, we can feed the front end of the pipeline, and I agree with Shanna that, you know, you need to facilitate this process, generate front-end discoveries, where considering there'll be a large attrition, but the few that are there, we also have a hurdle. Money, venture capital money in Canada is very expensive. It's very expensive, as opposed to Cambridge, Boston, Massachusetts, or San Francisco. And it's too bad that Gerald Davis could not join us. I don't see him today. He is a person that could bring this kind of perspective. So I think I'm not sure if the government can do a huge amount in this, but remember 10 or 15 years ago, there was a tax credit system in place that doubled the value of VC money into startups. And that was a huge incentive for investment. So I think there's an economic investment part that is difficult. And then, you know, obviously, we have a very reduced biomanufacturing capacity. Some of it came from the departure of those large, you know, manufacturing plants for pharma, or at least R&D for pharma. At least I know in the Montreal area, it was quite dramatic because pharma changed their model. They no longer wanted to invest a huge amount in R&D, but rather wanted to farm out the R&D and buy up the promising one. That's just the reality. So I think that we got to really pick, you know, our battle here when we approach the government. Don't forget, you mentioned CIHR, you mentioned NSERC. Everybody is going to be coming, wanting some of these dollars. So I think that the messaging that this community has to give us to be quite focused and quite articulate.
I agree. And if I can just add on the vaccine aspect, is Canada was a stronghold of vaccine. There was a lot of activities, you know, among the first vaccines in polio were in Canada. So we just did not maintain these you know, excellence hubs. We were not able to maintain them here. And that goes to the same issue that Philip is mentioning. Yes, getting startup going is an issue, although we're not so bad at doing that in Canada and getting them moved to the US. We've done that a number of times in Montreal, and because the VC money is too expensive, and so they eventually are purchased down the border. So we need to have these two aspects: nourish the people that can create these companies, first by assuring translation of discoveries into high quality projects that then can be translated into companies, and not create companies too early. I think that's a mistake. And then move the companies into the growth. And that's where the VC has to play a role, and tax credit could play a role, as Philip mentioned.
Yeah, there is another critical factor in here, and that's the angel investor or the early stage investor. That is again something that, you know, we have history of our country has been more of extraction of commodities, whether it's mining or oil or whatever. Those people also made a lot of money in real estate, and that engenders further. People tend to invest in areas they know something about. So I think a few more people that have done well out of biotechnology in Canada, who then will invest that cash back into new biotech companies in Canada, is also something that well, we need a few success stories. So these are and people that that profit from it, which then your initial instinct is to put that money back into startups, and that is a huge is a huge factor. You look at for example, Moderna, that was started to some extent by Bob Langer, who put money in very early on because he'd made money in other investments or in the biotech area. But there's many other examples of the same thing. So establishing the ecosystem, a complete ecosystem, is a little bit of a catch-22. You need success in order to get further success.
Maybe
go ahead, Michel.
Maybe Stefan, just going back to your first question about opportunities, I think there's another one that we did not discuss a lot. Canada has become a stronghold of AI, in particular in Montreal and Toronto, but other places in Canada. And AI is starting to play a very important role into drug discovery at many levels, at the patient end, at the molecule end. And so that's an opportunity to build on this. There was significant investment made by the government, but the private sector is moving. I showed a slide a bit earlier where you saw the partnership with big pharmas into these, applying AI into drug discovery. And that could be an important source of investment, but also of creation of companies that focus on this with the reputation that Canada has built on this and continue onward in this direction. I think that's a great opportunity not to underestimate.
And also to attract the people that specialize in AI into the drug discovery problem and the trainees as well, right? So
Correct. We
talk about trainees. The one thing that struck me as I was listening to the talks too is that there's relatively little overlap in the strengths of the different centers that were discussed today, right? And I wonder if this is just a remnant of the way that people have been practicing in silos more or less across the country, right? And I think the attempt today is to see if there could be more cohesion across the country when talking about drug discovery. And definitely I think Jerry mentioned that into his talk, and he had this nice analogy where maybe it takes everybody together to come together to create and to build this ecosystem that would be much stronger with all the parts. So anybody wants to comment on that?
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, I think it's essential that we don't even have a good inventory, for example, of who has containment level 3 laboratories across the country, or who could do GMP scale vaccine production. So it's all been left to us to do this at the grassroots, to be able to connect people. And I think, which is fine. At the end of the day, no one wants to be told what to do, but I think that as a country, we're missing an opportunity here. No one likes a forced marriage, so I think it has to be done organically, and it has to be we have to be careful about that, But I worry sometimes because governments want to have quick solutions and they want to find the shiniest thing that they're going to do, and they're going to invest a big whack of resources in this and forget that they've invested for 30 years in a lot of other areas that have built it up. So I think it's really important that we find ways increasingly to coordinate these ideas.
Yeah, I would also comment that I think in some ways it's great that we all have our individual strengths, and as institutions, we've kind of uniquely built out those strengths in a particular direction. And what that means then is we have a very complementary set of things going on across the country. When it comes to building our programs, we all know it's easiest to collaborate locally, right? You can make more progress faster when you're collaborating with somebody in your building or in the next building versus in another city. And I think that makes sense and it's most efficient. But what's missing is the kind of thing that we're doing today, you know, to talk as colleagues across the country about what we're doing and where there are synergies and how maybe there could be links between programs that we're running so that we can do more together. And that's always missing from the programs that we've seen to date. So I think it's really important for us to strategize, you know, with the different organizations that we're leading to kind of just strategically build. And so I hope that that's something that comes out of today. Maybe now we know more about what each other are doing and we know more about how we can build together.
That's an interesting point, Shanna, because if you look at what in the recent years, we've extended our calls to other universities across Canada to, you know, that they could access the services and the expertise of the drug discovery unit in IRICoR. And we had quite a big ask, you know, you saw, you know, 100 plus applications from you know, across Canada. But this was all individual investigators. This was not coming from a coordinated or, you know, they were individuals that thought that they had something interesting and wanted to have access to this. So that's where maybe we need a bit more coordination between the organizations of these people, because they are, you know, more or less left on their own when they're trying to come and collaborate. So there's opportunities to leverage resources from these different places into that kind of interactions.
Very good. So anybody wants to comment on anything that has been said? Panelists here, the speakers. If not, we have about 2 or 3 minutes if you want to make a final remark. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I want to say one thing, and that is there is a little bit that we need to build in here, which is a risk-taking mentality. That you know, when you're starting something off, you're taking a risk, and you know, we tend to within the academia, the mindset is rather more conservative. And so this is essential. You know, if you're going to start something off in terms of a commercialization, you're going off in territory that is completely different from an academic environment. The rules and regulations that are present in academia just don't hold when you move outside. And so we need to find ways of being more comfortable with that risk. So that you know, maybe they'll go and take that chance. But that's really a lot of people don't move forward with big ideas that they may have in an academic setting, just because they're apprehensive of what may happen in a commercial environment. So that's it's a bit of a mindset and a cultural thing, but it's something universities aren't very good at you know, calming people in that regard either. I mean, if anything, it can sometimes be the other way around. So it's but it is an important aspect. When you're asking somebody to go out on their own, often they're going to be putting some of their own money in, et cetera, et cetera. The risk-taking mentality is important.
I think there's definitely the financial implication, but there's also the career progression, right? And whenever we talk about translation and commercialization, sometimes it is not always compatible with an academic career. I think the institution and everybody needs maybe to valorize these type of activities better. Michel definitely talked about you know, the possibility to publish high impact studies along with pharmaceutical industry, but I think this valorization of these type of activities within the academic ranks needs to be made stronger, perhaps. Anybody else wants to comment before we close?
I think just to pick up on that, I think Gerald wrote something in the chat in the same mode. I think that's changing a lot. That the universities are realizing that, you know, things we do, like outreach to communities and commercialization and science communication, for example, are valid career objectives to have and get included in tenure and promotion packages. Unlike before, it was count the papers and divide by the number of years. So I think that these things are changing. Everything is are institutions that have deep roots. All of our institutions have roots, that are well over 100 years old. It comes with some baggage, but some stability, unlike some of the other universities maybe we've seen. And so I think there's if we can't do it, then nobody can do it. But I think things on the ground are changing.
All right, let's stop here. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and then we're going to have the panel that is going to be moderated by Andrew Casey from